So, Joe, when we met 10 years ago and we first started discussing the journal Fashion, Style and Popular Culture, did you ever think we'd be here carrying on the conversation now?
Absolutely not. I did not think it would. Well, first of all, I have to tell you both, I feel like I met you both yesterday. I do not feel it's been a decade of our lives that have gone by. Time flies fast, but no, I did not think it would be here. I hoped, but I didn't think I would still be in this spot 10 years later. And what's even better is I did not know it would get bigger. So I did not know we would be up to 4 issues per year instead of just 3. So it's been a phenomenon that keeps on growing, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. I like it a lot.
And when you started that conversation with me all those years back, what was the mission behind the journal? What were the reasons you wanted to found this journal?
As you know, like so I didn't feel like I fit in with certain academic associations. Every time I would go to an association meeting, I felt somewhat of an outcast or that I didn't belong. My research was contemporary. It was related to pop culture. It wasn't social sciencey. It wasn't a quantitative analysis. It was more of an analysis, of critical analysis looking at fashion. And so I found a home when I started going to the Pop Culture Association after having Dr. Patricia Cunningham as my PhD advisor. And when I went there, I finally felt like I was at home. And so belonging to PCA and listening to the other folks that would go there, I saw that there was this population of people that also did not feel like they fit in. They didn't feel like they belonged to this association or that association. And so they would tell me, I do these papers and I write these papers, but I don't submit them to anything. And I asked them about, I told them that there were journals for the Pop Culture Association that they could submit to. And they said they just didn't feel comfortable, that those journals didn't fit what they wanted to talk about. And so that's when I realized there was this opportunity. And as the fashion area at PCA began to grow and grow and grow, I realized that this was a huge opportunity and someone needed to do something about it. So basically, that was my idea for the journal. And so I walked up to your table and you and I met and we started talking. And then I met Masood. And it was a great, to talk to him. And you said, do a proposal, pitch it to me. And so I did. And the rest is history. But I knew there was a niche for people that just needed a home. And that was my real mission. My mission was to create this home for people. I received a really great email. And I sent it to Beth, and it was about 2 years ago from Jose Blanco, who said to me, that now, diversity, equity, inclusion, social justice is this hot topic, right? And he said, Joe, it took me a minute to realize you've always been doing that. You always were the person that wanted to help those academics that didn't feel like they had a particular place to go or publish their scholarship. And so that's what fashion, style, and popular culture is. And I will say this, I'm going to give credit. I was going to call it fashion and popular culture. And it was Mr. Ted Polhemus, who did the famous book on style tribes, who said to me, if you put the word style in this journal, it will be successful and it will sail on forever. And so I did, and it has worked.
Can you remember, did you have any clear objectives when you started the journal? Were there certain things you wanted to achieve, and have you achieved?
Well, that's a great question. I wanted to achieve somewhat of notoriety and a journal that had success behind it. And I have to say that it would not have the success it does if it wasn't for Bethan, who's on this call too, and that's why I wanted her here. And also created an editorial board of scholars that I knew were somewhat known, but weren't quite known. They had done great works, but they weren't on other editorial boards or they weren't parts of other journals. And they were also people that felt underutilized. So I actually thought my goal was to create this family of international scholars that were for the first time together, both academic and practitioners. One of the things I realized as my goal was that that practitioners that are interested in academic works and scholarly works and journals weren't being recognized as well. So I wanted to include those in. So yeah, I would say that now it's I'm almost to my goals. I haven't quite accomplished the goals I want. I would love to see a larger indexing, to have a higher, have a higher impact factor someday. Those are the goals I'm looking for. But the fact that I even have an impact factor is great. And so I still strive to work every day. I actually look to Bethan as my leadership development person. I'm doing a leadership development course with Drexel, and I listed her as one of my reviewers. But I look to her as the guide for the journal as well. Because I'm not the only person in this journal. It's a huge family of people. I think we have like 45 people on the editorial associate editors.
We have a really big board, yeah. And I've like you said, I've worked with Joe since I started at Intellect over 10 years ago, and it was one of the first journals I was given. And I remember Masood saying, I want to make fashion like a bigger subject area for Intellect. We already had a couple of fashion journals, and 2014 was the year when we were going to go and launch all of these new fashion titles. So Joe was one of the very first editors I worked with. It's been such a great relationship. And I think, as you said, like what the journal's been great as is it's so inclusive of scholars from all levels of experience, but in such a broad and diverse range of subject areas as well. And it's been such a fun journal to work on, and really, really interesting. And it's just great to hear that Joe considers me part of the team. I love it, and it's doing so well in the indexing and subscriptions year on year. It's going up, so we're really, really proud of this journal.
Yeah, and James, your marketing is crucial too. I mean, the ideas and how you present the journal when you go to different conferences has made it successful as well. And but you actually, I consider you like you're the prelude to the journal. You're the person that helped me get it started. So like that's always in my mind.
Well, I've got to also thank all the colleagues who've worked with Bethan and I over the years, because many people at Intellect have had a hand in making fashion, style and popular culture the great success story it is. And yeah, it's been such a pleasure to work with you and the team. And one of those reasons behind that would be just like you're always so passionate about the marketing and the sales of the journal and getting it out there and reaching the widest possible audience, and that being a global audience as well. So it's always a pleasure to work with you, because there's always ideas, and I think that's such an important part of marketing and such an important part of making a successful journal, and one that's lasted long and continues to grow. It does make me think, though, right back to the first issue again. And Bethan, I wanted to bring you in here. Can you remember that first issue? Can you remember when you read Joe's editorial? Like, what did that feel like to you? Did it feel like he was putting a flag in the sand?
It felt very exciting. I was like, this is something fresh and new. It wasn't the sort of traditional academic writing. I mean, it embraced that, but it was looking forward and looking at new ways of presenting this scholarship. And we publish scholars, practitioners, there's been designers, all kinds of people. We've had interviews, articles, and I really feel it's very sort of forward thinking. What are the changes in fashion? How can we look at fashion in a different way? And it just felt very fresh and new. And it's stayed that way over the 10 years as well. Like so many different special issues, so many different topics have been covered. And I love, like Joe hasn't shied away from anything that's even a bit taboo as well. We've done fashion and the erotic, we've done porn chic recently. And I just love it. It's sort of all inclusive. Anything that's to do with fashion, style and popular culture. If there's interesting scholarship or work being done in that area, the journal has covered it. And that's what's been so good, like working with Joe, working with his team on the journal.
And what I really look for editorial board is people with enthusiasm. I get emails from people going, I haven't heard from you, and when do I get to do my next review? So like, I don't think there's a lot of journals out there where people are asking to do reviews. So I'm happy with that, and I'll be thrilled when we eventually get it on a database and we go electronic. And then I have people, by the way, I have people that say, why haven't you asked me to be on the editorial board? And I'm like, I don't know. Do you want to be on the editorial board? Okay, fine. You can be on the editorial board. So that's another thing that I really like, that people are coming up to me. And I think that's great.
Well, and I think that's something to be applauded for as well, that you have a really healthy mix on the editorial board of senior, well-published scholars, key figures in the field, but also new and emerging scholars, which I think, one, gives people an opportunity, often their first opportunity to get published or to work on a journal, help them develop their career. And I think the journal's been very important as a platform. And I think that shows you and your team how collegial you are in passing that torch and enabling people to, you know, further their own careers. But also, of course, it keeps the journal like very relevant, very pertinent, and really up to date and moving forward, I think. So I think it was a great coup, and something that a lot of people, when they start a journal, they maybe get a bit too obsessed with trying to get the biggest and best names. Whereas I think with Fashion, Style and Popular Culture, one of the great successes is the balance on the board that you've had of people representative of different disciplines, different countries and cultures, different groups, but also different levels in their career. And I think that's been, you know, a two-way street, and has kept the journal very young and fresh, and right there at the top of the zeitgeist, and very important in terms of the work it's publishing.
Well, one of the things I also want to add in there, I never looked at school. A lot of people go for chasing people at certain schools, and I'm like, I don't care what school you're at. It doesn't matter if it's private, if it's public, if it's, you know, a huge school or a small school. As long as you're willing to, you know, you're a scholar and you're willing and you really want to be a part of this. The one thing I will say, we should always talk about this. My opportunities are that, you know, social media is growing. We can't ignore it. And so I love the fact that I recently, in our last issue, we actually had a video that was part of the party stick, that was part of the journal, and I need to get it out on our Facebook. But I like this notion of scholars that want to submit something that also want me to show something. Like, you know, this article is part of this interactive media. So this is where I hope I can go in the future as well. You know, if the scholar's working on a short, you know, fashion related film, and they want me to put the 2-minute film up and then also publish the article, I think that's where we need to be, because it's just going to get more and more media driven.
I agree, and our Intellect's been doing a lot of work in this area as well. As you know, we've got the new Intellect Discover platform, which means we can now do multimedia. We can have images, films, and any other kind of multimedia that might be submitted, because not everyone wants to write a research article, write 8,000 words. They're practitioners. They need to show it in a visual way, or, you know, in a creative way. So we can start putting more support in those areas now. So
that's fantastic.
Let's go back to some of the issues and some of the topics discussed over the years, because as Beth alluded to earlier, you really pulled no punches and dealt with a lot of key topics that have been affecting global societies. But for you, Joe, what are some of the standout issues or some of the standout topics that you've focused on over the years?
I think the standout issues to me, believe it or not, are the issues that were special issues that, you know, that just popped up, that people were really willing to just do. Some of my favorites have been, and I'd love to repeat some of these. Fashion and music was great. That was done by Jessica Struble. I'm thrilled that, you know, Jose and Raul are doing another Latinx issue. I mean, I'm so excited to get that issue again. The Black Lives Matter issue was great. Perfect timing. It was just a timed well issue, and I'm glad it's open access. One of the favorite things that I like that we've done with the journal, though, I think it's great that we have people like Ali Khan, who is at Virginia Commonwealth University in Qatar, who has the luxury of going to the Tokyo Fashion Week, and taking great photos. And then we've actually made collages for the cover of the issues. Those are some of my favorites, because nobody else gets to do that. And it's because of you guys that I've gotten to do that. So those have been like my favorite things that we've done. There are other topics that I'd like to continue on. We've been having a hit after hit with our retail merchandising. I did not know that merchandising technologies and merchandising was a hot topic for this journal, but it has been. And people, one of our last issues, I think it was 9.4, people are really enjoying that issue. And so I also get surprises. So I think that that's great. My favorite, so I had to think about this for favorite cover. My favorite cover, believe it or not, one of my favorite covers has been the cover. I was a huge Patrick Kelly fan in the 80s, and I was so thrilled that we got that Keith Fraley, I think that's his last name, did a special article, and Van Dyke Lewis did a special article on Patrick Kelly, and we got to feature him on the cover. So that's one of my favorite covers.
And Beth, what about you? You've worked on the journal for a long time now. What have been some of the standout issues and some of your favorite covers too?
You know, I had the music and fashion down as well, but it covered like everything, like punk, hip hop, jazz, metal, and like all the subcultures. And it was just, that was a really fun one. And the cover on that one I love as well. It's really punchy punk, the bright pink. I think that's beautiful cover that we did. And like you said, the Latin American fashion, we get to do that one again. And costume and ethnic dress, that was just so, yeah, really interesting. We go from like the really, really fun issues, the really important issues within fashion. And yeah, again, that is what I love about the journal. It's just such a broad range of topics that we do. But yeah, music and fashion is standout. That was just volume 2, I think. It was quite an early one, but that one stayed in my memory.
I have to give us kudos. I always think we're ahead of the curve. I don't know why, and I'm not going to say it's because the three of us are so wonderful. I think it happens by just the notion that we're innovative. And so people that have innovative topics come up and say, hey, can I do a special issue of your journal? The issue, cultural appropriation, that article is cited all the time.
Yeah.
And so we just hit the topics right. And we've been very lucky. And it keeps me awake too, because I keep getting topics from people saying, hey, we should do an issue on this, or we should do an issue on that. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, fine. We should give it a whirl and see what happens.
Which topics are keeping you awake at the moment? What's on the agenda for the next few issues?
Yeah, yeah. Body image is one that we went. I know that body image. So I'm Bethan and I have been talking. We have because I was so lucky to be able to do online first. We actually have a backlog, and it's really, I would call it body justice. I want to change it from body image to body justice, a special issue on that. I have been getting nags and pulls from a colleague to do an issue on villains. So I think we may do an issue.
I feel like we've been talking about that one for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a villains issue would be great, because, you know, villains always get to wear the best costumes. So like I think it'll be a great issue. And I think and then we have the marginalized identities that's coming out next year. So that one's coming out as well. And then we're thinking about doing something that's focused on design. And then we received a great paper that Bethany even liked on mushrooms as fashion, mushroom fashions. So I think we've got it covered for the next 2 years. But again, I'm always willing to take special topics. I will tell you both something that's kind of cool. When you start doing special topics, people start emailing you saying, what special topics are you doing? Because I have an article. So they think that you become the special topics journal. So I've been trying to do more general issues, because I don't want people to think we're lost in special topics. So I say, oh, no. We more than willing to do general issues, and we will still be doing those. So yeah, I like to do at least, one of those to 2 of those a year.
Yeah, I feel if you only stick to the special issues, you're restricting yourself for what's coming in. So we want to publish whatever the latest research is. We want to have that in the journal, regardless of whether it fits into some box that we've created. If we're doing a special issue, obviously as well, we normally get a really great response to that, and it's usually to do with someone has approached Joe with a great idea, or Joe's noticed a trend, or there's something that's coming up that's going to be that we feel is a big topic in fashion studies. But doing the general issues is so important as well, just so that we're capturing the new scholarship, regardless of where it sits subject-wise.
And I do say this to both of you, Jessica. I have to shout out to Jessica Struble, who does my reviews. She is fierce. She gets books. We get so many books. At the University of Rhode Island. She gives people 90 days. she reminds them and reminds them and reminds them. We are not lacking in reviews. We do not go, oh, do we have any reviews right now? We're doing a special issue on reviews. And then also I have more reviews for the following issue. And then I have even more reviews coming. So I just have to give her a shout out. And I do not step on her toes or my associate editor's toes. When they have ideas, I say, let's give it a try. I usually I don't say no. That's not really in my vocabulary because I realize that sometimes my ideas aren't the only ideas out there. And I think that's what that's the person you need to be if you want to be a journal editor. Seriously.
I think that sounds like a fantastic tip for any budding journal editors out there. Do you have any other tips? Is there anything else that you would suggest to people to consider before they enter down this path? Because it's a big commitment, because we're only just getting going and we're 10 years in, and only now really feels like we're starting to achieve those goals for me that we'd set. So it's awesome to think about the future. So it's a long-term commitment. So what top tips would you have for someone thinking about starting their own journal?
That's funny that you mentioned this, because I was talking to some students. Number one, don't give up your humility. Remember that you're as good as your last day that you were here. And two, your team is crucial. Do not stop thanking your team. I know both of you work in the world of publishing, so you're not independently wealthy, and it takes a lot of work for you both to do this for me. And then don't just literally listen to those who have ideas, and make sure you give them the credit for those ideas. And so one of the things I try to do is elevate the team. I think my editorial team has folks on there that are better than I am, way better than I am. And I think that that's the kind of team you want to have. So I think that, thinking that, you're the best of the best is not usually the best thing to do. I think a lot of my background has a tendency to be from the fact that I worked in customer service for so long in the lovely world of retail and in stores, and I worked with different types of people. And so I think customer service for me is high. It's just something I never stop. And I believe that a good journal editor is actually a service provider, and so they're not really a king or a queen in my instance. They are a service provider. They are here to provide a service to the academic community. And so you can't forget that. That's really what a good editor is.
And Beth, how about you? Do you have any sort of final thoughts or comments?
I just think the journal just carrying on chasing whatever is new and innovative in the area. Joe mentioned an article that I really loved recently about clothes that this is simplifying it, clothes made out of mushrooms. But it's to do with sustainable fashion, ecological fashion, how we can, how the fashion chain from the beginning can look at new ways to break this sort of the fast fashion, the mass consumption. And this is just one way where I'm seeing the journal develop and these new topics coming in, and it being very welcoming of all these different kinds of research. And just keeping on top of what's happening in the moment, and being open to working with people from all disciplines within fashion, style and popular culture studies as well. And I think Joe is great at that. He's very approachable, very welcoming, and he works closely with the scholars as well to develop the work. So I'm very honoured to be involved with the journal. I hope to continue to be working with the journal, and it's a real success story for Intellect and our fashion portfolio as well. It's just gone from strength to strength each year. I'm very, very proud to be working on it.
And Joe, what about yourself? Do you have any final thoughts or comments?
Just thanks to both of you. You've done a great job helping me do this. A lot of work has been involved, and so and you believed in me, so that's a good thing. I get choked up about it.
Oh, thank you, Joe. It's always so much fun. Not just fun, but it's I'm learning things from the journal all the time. I get absorbed in the articles when I know I should be doing something else, and I start proofreading, and then I realize I'm getting really into the articles. They are so interesting, and I'm just so thrilled to see how yeah, there's more and more readers, more and more submissions coming in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you, Joe, for being such a pleasure to work with. Keeping my days really interesting.
you make it easy. I did want to say the last thing is when you mention goals, one of my biggest goals is to start including those countries that we have neglected for so long as part of the academic community. So we're starting to do that. I think we're getting submissions. It's difficult with language, but we're trying to get there. And I want to say to my editorial board, I don't know if you two knew this, I have bilingual folks on my editorial board. So when I get something from a country where I know the person may speak the language, I ask them, can you review this? Is there some language issues? What should we do? And so I think a goal for this journal is to be more global, is to become even bigger.
Well, and
I agree.
I think we should definitely just say, if anyone's listening to this from across the globe, at Intellect we have some language ambassadors. We have platforms that have accessibility, and we've got a lot of work to do still, but we do strive to try and make this journal, all of our journals, as accessible as possible to the widest possible demographics across the globe. So if you're out there listening to this, do reach out to us, or of course reach out to Joe directly if you're interested in something to fashion, style, and popular culture. All of our details are on our website at intellectbooks.com. And the other thing you can go do is you can go and check out an actual copy of Fashion, Style, and Popular Culture, and you can download a free review from our website. Check out the new Intellect Discover platform too, where we're hosting this journal and many of our other publications. And there's a lot of free and interesting content there for you to download and sort of, get your teeth into. But Joe, I just want to say thank you to you. I want to say thank you to your whole team. Bethan, same to you. I know how much work you've put into this years. And a big thanks to Intellect as well for all the support and for believing in this publication and to making it one of our great, most successful publications. And if anyone's interested in finding out more, do go to intellectbooks.com and check out Fashion, Style, and Popular Culture. And as for you two, hope to see you here in 10 years when we're celebrating the 20th. A few more gray hairs, and of course, a few more amazing, exceptional, and very important issues under our belt. So congratulations to you both. Congratulations to everyone who's worked on Fashion, Style, and Popular Culture. And here we are. Cheers to 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. Thank you, Joe.